Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to be talking about Donald Trump and why he's the shittiest president we've ever had. First of all, we're going to break down his family and who's all in it. So basically we have Melania Trump, his spouse, Ivanka Trump, his daughter, Donald Trump Jr., his son, Barron Trump, also his son, Tiffany Trump, his daughter, Eric Trump, his son, Fred Trump, his father, Robert Trump, his brother, and Mary Ann, his mother. Why are we talking about Donald Trump's family? Well, it's very problematic from day one. In 1927, Queens, New York, Donald Trump's father, Fred Trump, was arrested at KKK protests, but was later released. Now that we've broken down the history of Donald Trump's past, which I could go further more into detail, but I'd like to focus more on Donald Trump himself and what he's done in his lifetime, more than what other people have influenced him to do. So what we're going to do is break down the timeline. It starts at 1973 and ends at 2015. However, there's more events during this timeline that I have not mentioned, and also after this timeline that I have not mentioned, because there's already so much stuff that is here and is more relevant than other things that he said, done, and so on. The timeline of Trump's racism starts in 1973, at least where I wrote it down. In 1973, Trump refused to rent a black tenants and lied to black applicants about whether apartments were available, which led to U.S. Department of Administration to sue Donald Trump under Fair Housing Act. A few years later down the line, in the 1980s, Kit Brown, Trump's former employee at Trump's Castle Casino, accused Trump's business of discrimination. His direct quote was, "When Donald and Ivana came to the floor, they would order blacks off of the floor." Later on down the line, in 1992, the Trump Plaza Hotel had to pay a $200,000 fine to transfer black and women dealers off to re-accommodate a big-time gambler prejudice. Though in 1973 he later won the case years later by countersuing the administration for false claims, quote-unquote, in 1992 he actually lost the case and had to end up paying $200,000 because there was a prejudice against black and women dealers. Now, continuing on to Trump's racist past, in 2004, Trump fired Kevin Allen, a black contestant, for being overly educated, quote-unquote. Trump later down the line made a lot of quotes about this situation and what happened, but he's never denied that he said those things or fired him for that reason. He later on backed himself up by saying he's a quote-unquote least racist person that there is. However, his past is a lot different than what he is saying now. We're going to skip a few years ahead and move on to 2011. He constantly shamed Obama by saying he wasn't quote-unquote smart enough to get into Harvard or wasn't from the US. However, to counterclaim that, this event on its own doesn't make somebody racist, but seeing it tied into everything else that's been going on and his history of being racist towards people of color and how he acts now in 2020, it kind of ties everything all together. Let's talk about how he made an unnecessary ban for all Muslims to come to the US. Only 0.2% of Muslims live in the US currently, and that's back in 2018. Between 1992 and 2012, 1.7 million Muslims moved to the US. Crime rates in that time has gone down 20% in those years, and nowhere on the internet can you find Muslim crime rates because they are very low. Now that we've broken down the fact that Donald Trump's family is in the KKK, that Donald Trump is racist himself and his history of racism, we're going to talk about all of his assault allegations, which this is only a few of them. There are many more out there that have not been reported or have been reported that I'm not covering, but this is only a fraction of the allegations that have came out against him. Remember, all these cases are alleged. I'm not saying that they didn't happen, and I'm also not saying that they did happen. However, there are a lot of court cases that happened and Donald Trump ended up paying off the people to not sue him, but also a lot of witnesses that testified in those court cases. Firstly, we're going to start off with Kristen Anderson in the 1990s. She claimed that he touched her under her underwear and under her skirt. Next, we're going to talk about E. Jean Carroll in the late 1995. He pushed her against the wall and proceeded to assault her physically. This case furthermore goes into more detail later down the line. However, I don't want to go into these details because I feel like there's more privacy that goes into it and I don't want to trigger or upset anybody with those details. Katie Johnson, who was previously known as Jane Doe for years to come, in 1994 claimed that Trump and Epstein repeatedly raped her, and goes on to more gruesome details. However, once again, I'm not going to go into those details for privacy reasons, and I don't want to trigger or upset the audience. In 2005, Rachel Cooks claimed that Trump gave her an unconsensual kiss on the mouth, which on its own is not assault in physical form. However, it is very unconsensual, it's not appropriate, and it has a pattern fitting in with all the other victims. He has kissed multiple women on the mouth unconsensually, or grabbed them or groped them in any way, or also gone as far as raping or assaulting them. In 2006, Jessica Drake claimed that Donald Trump grabbed, hugged, and kissed her, even offering her $10,000 to sleep with him in his hotel room. He obviously refused his offer, but later went on to talk about this event in later interviews. I mean, who would honestly sleep with Donald Trump for $10,000? That's kind of sad. Next up on the list is Jessica Leeds in the early 1980s. Trump kissed her, groped her on the chest, and reached up her skirt without consent. Now, this is only part of the list. There is a few more to go, but if you have not seen a pattern within the women and the cases by now, then you're obviously deaf or you're just stupid. Next up is Natasha Stoynoff. Trump allegedly assaulted her during an interview at Mar-a-Lago. Coincidentally, this interview was the same interview where Melania Trump was there, and the interview was about Melania Trump and Donald Trump's anniversary. Once again, this all ties in because Trump has a long history of sexual affairs with his wives, and his son actually refused to talk to him for about a year and a half because he did not want to talk to his father because he cheated on his wife. Last victim we're going to talk about in this video, like I said, there's a lot more than I'm not mentioning. There's 25 to be exactly that were documented. However, I'm only covering a few. Is Karina Virginia in 1998. Trump walks up to her, grabbed her, and touched her and groped her on her chest unconsensually. Now that we've discussed all the assault victims of Donald Trump, which exclude a lot of them, like I said, I've only done a portion of them, we're going to move on to when he owned Miss Universe and harassed multiple underage women. On the top of the list of people that Trump walked into while he owned Miss Universe was Mariah Bellato in 1997. She was Miss Vermont. If I pronounce any of these name wrongs, feel free to correct me in the comments. However, I cannot speak English that well because I am stupid, so ignore that. Continuing on with the list, we have Tasha Dixon in 2001 Miss Arizona. And once more after that, we have Victoria Hughes in 1997 Miss New Mexico. Last on the list that I have written down is Bridget Sullivan in 2000 Miss Hampshire. Once again, there are plenty more victims out there that Trump has allegedly walked into, assaulted, and many more things. However, I am not writing them all down. A lot of them have been reported, or I just left them out because I didn't want to overload everybody with information, because there's already so much information about Trump that has already came out about his assault cases, his harassment against women, his racism and sexism and all of that. So, now that we've gone over assault cases and his pageant contestants as he walked into, we're going to talk about his direct quotes about women that he's talked about.
Donald Trump loves a beauty pageant, and by his own admission, he was no stranger backstage while owning parts of 3 different pageants for nearly 2 decades.
They're standing there with no clue. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
In 2001, Tasha Dixon was Miss Arizona, competing in the Miss USA pageant. She experienced this kind of awkward moment firsthand.
Our first introduction to him was when we were at the dress rehearsal and half naked changing into our bikinis.
Dixon was 18 at the time and says watching Trump storm into a dressing room was shocking.
To have the owner come waltzing in when we're naked or half naked in a very physically vulnerable position, and then to have the pressure of the people that work for him telling us to go fawn all over him, go walk up to him, talk to him, get his attention. Who do you complain to? He owns the pageant. So there's no one to complain to. Everyone there works for him.
In 2005, 4 years later, Donald Trump bragged to Howard Stern about what he could get away with since he owned the pageants. The conversation uncovered by CNN's K-File.
I'll go backstage before a show. Yes. And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it.
You're like
everything is good.
Later in that same show, Trump is asked if he'd ever had sex with Miss USA or Miss Universe contestants.
Never comment on things like that.
Give us the first letter of the country you had sex with.
How many letters are there?
This comes just weeks after Hillary Clinton brought up Trump's attacks on former Miss Universe Alicia Machado. Trump once described her as Miss Piggy and then told his Twitter followers to find her sex tape. And another video where Trump is seen interviewing Playboy playmates and basks in the glow of a question from CNN's Jeannie Mose.
Have you ever dated a playmate?
I refuse to answer that question.
On the grounds that it may be true?
It may be true.
Tasha Dixon says she's speaking out so voters can get a better understanding of Donald Trump's personality.
I'm telling you, Donald Trump owned the pageant for the reason to utilize his power to get, around beautiful women.
Now, if you want to use the excuse, this was back in the day, for his inappropriate actions and behavior, he still does stuff like this to this day, and I'll put a video recording here of him begging a young woman who's seemingly underage to give him a kiss on the lips on stage, which, along with everything that I've commented about his sexual assault stories, that is a very common pattern of him uncomfortably and unconsensually kissing young women on the lips without even asking them. To go along with all of these recordings that I've shown you in all the assault cases, he's also made very inappropriate quotes, and I will list some more in the videos that he has made about women that he's either met, known, or just genuinely talked about on social media or interviews. He's made quotes like, "I've made the heels taller and the bathing suits smaller," referring to how he's owned the pageant and taken advantage of that to sexualize women farther than he already has. And continuing that pattern with his daughter, he's also made several quotes to his daughter which are sexual and inappropriate to make towards your biological daughter. Starting with one, "She's a very nice figure. If she wasn't my daughter, I'd date her." If that isn't fucking creepy as hell to you, then I don't know what is. Because this isn't Alabama. He's the President of the United States. There's no excuse for actions or verbal expression like that. It's disgusting and there's no excuse for it. Now that we've covered more or less the older topics and leading up to what has recently been discovered, we're going to talk about the Jeffrey Epstein and Anonymous case that they allegedly leaked Donald Trump's court cases where he trafficked, murdered Princess Diana, and raped multiple children around the age of around 9 to 13. Once again, if you want to use the quote-unquote excuse that the documents aren't real, these court cases are proven real. He's actually paid off multiple families to keep quiet, up to thousands and thousands of dollars for them not to speak about what's happened. But now that it's coming out, he's been sued multiple times. But once again, he won these cases because he paid these people off so he wouldn't get exposed for what he's done. Now, a lot of these are alleged and a lot of these are just theories. However, there's a lot of proof and victims speaking out about what is happening, and it kind of backs up what is happening. And if you put two and two together and you're not stupid, then you'll realize that a lot of these quote-unquote alleged have a lot of proof to back them up. There's a lot more to know about Donald Trump than I have listed in this video, as well as child trafficking and rape, but I'm not going to dive that deep into it because 1, I don't want to get into legal trouble, 2, I don't know completely that much about the situation in itself. I only scratched the surface of it, basically. However, I tried my best to bring up the past as well as current days, because he is still doing these things to this day. Having affairs and making racist remarks, not only on Twitter, but in interviews and so much more. And that's just resulting in much more negative racist backlash to people of color who don't deserve it. If you want to support Donald Trump, go ahead, that's fine, it's on your own time. However, just know you are a shitty person supporting an even shittier person. A lot of the things that I have put in this video aren't hard to research. And if you're lazy, you're stupid, and you don't care about America, then you're gonna vote Donald Trump. Because I've just showed you the facts, I've dropped the receipts, and I've dropped everything from start to finish. And if you don't want to listen to my video, don't. However, he's the president of the United States, and it was a mistake to even vote him into the office without doing research. I was gonna cover the dementia theory about Donald Trump, but it's nearly impossible to find pictures of where he was standing before he decided to go and hide in a bunker. So I'm not gonna completely cover that theory. It's not proven, it's just a theory. But he does refuse to get therapy or any mental help because he thinks mental professions are bullshit, quote unquote. So I'm not going to dive that deep either into it. I just scratched the surface, like I said, about everything that's happening. However, this video is going to end very soon, so I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. And have a good day. Thank you for watching.